So in the last topic, we explored what happens when the lizard hijacks the wizard. This is where we go into that shutdown. We are incapable of looking at things from a different perspective, coming up with ideas, solutions. We really just go into this reactive fight or flight. And in the VUCA environment, we can see how the subconscious can see this VUCA environment as a potential saber-toothed tiger. And if we are not managing our stress levels every day, we could be reacting to very small things, never mind the bigger things. And as we do so, we really rob ourselves of our well-being, because the energy that is wasted on maybe reacting on things that are out of our control, or reacting instead of responding where we could have addressed it in a different fashion, the energy we use to try and mend that relationship, for example, takes a lot away from us. So in this topic, we're going to go in a little bit more deeper. We're going to look at some of the triggers that can activate our amygdala, that can take us into this hijack. So let's explore. It reminds me of the saying that, the caught fish never saw the hook, only the bait. And I feel that's really what I'd like to get through for you in this topic, is for you to become more aware of these triggers so that you can notice the bait and not bite on the hook. Now, Daniel Goleman identified the top 5 triggers for the amygdala hijack in the workplace. These included where a person feels that there is condescension and lack of respect being shown to them, or where they feel that they are not being listened to or heard, or where they feel unappreciated, or where they feel that they are being treated unfairly, and finally, feeling that they are being held to unrealistic deadlines. Now, as we look at these 5, you may notice that they touch on the nerve of the base fears. So, for example, condescension will maybe touch on our self-worth. Not being listened to will possibly touch on the fear of rejection. Feeling unappreciated, that of inadequacy and self-worth. Being treated unfairly can impact on our fear of separation, because we are not being treated the same as the others. And lastly, being held to unrealistic deadlines could touch on our fear of inadequacy. Now, there are other hooks that can activate the hijack. So they include where others are abrasive. They can be arrogant, sarcastic, or demeaning to you. Or when others become aloof, they are hard to approach or not seeking input from you. Or when others are hostile, they're angry, yelling, losing their temper with you. Or when they micromanage you, constantly monitoring and checking up on you. Or when others are over analytical, they can be focusing on minor issues and being a perfectionist. Or when others are self-centered, where they care only about themselves and they believe that they are always correct. Or when others are unreliable, they miss deadlines and cannot be counted upon. And finally, where others are untrustworthy, they exploit others and take that undeserved credit. Now, reflect on any of these hot buttons as well as any others you may have, and please feel free to share any of them in our comments section, because you might find that you're not the only one who has them. Now remember, being non-reactive does not mean you do nothing. If we feel we must address something, then it's important how we respond instead of react. Now, if it is out of our control, well, then maybe it's a good idea to do nothing. So how do we begin managing our non-reactiveness? Well, the first step is to notice the physical signs that you're about to go into the hijack. There is a very short window to do this, because once you're in the hijack, it's too late. And you no longer have any control over your behavior, because you'll be operating purely on those learned habits and patterns that you've done time and time again before. Now, these physical signs include that flush on your face, as your blood pressure increases in preparation for the fight or flight. You might notice your breathing gets faster to get the oxygen required, and there is tunnel vision as your pupils dilate and your senses become more acute, focusing on the threat. You might even notice your mouth beginning to dry as your body reduces juices to the stomach, and then there's a sweating of the palms to cool your body. This is this ancient operating system kicking in, and it's applying the same defense systems that it used for that saber-toothed tiger, but maybe it's a little bit of an overkill for the guy pushing in front of us in the traffic. If you can notice these physical signs, begin to do some deep breathing, and all you have to do is just deep breathly, filling your lungs in through your nose and out through your mouth. And you'll already begin to feel that your body is becoming less reactive. And this, I guess, is where that old adage, count to 10 works. But you are required to be aware, because the pull of this hijack is very powerful. What I do is I do my breathing, and quickly I remind myself that the last time I went into this state, it actually didn't solve anything, keeping my higher brain functions open with this perspective. And as I do so, I remove myself as quick as possible from the situation, or do my best to do nothing if I cannot remove myself. Now, if you can do this, then you have overcome much. This is not something we just do automatically. It takes effort and willpower because we're up against an ancient system that has been around for a long time. In Workbook 2, you'll see there's Exercise 2, where you're required to challenge yourself, to observe where you've actually gone into hot button mode, and afterwards to reflect on these questions. What triggered you, and can you identify a base fear behind that trigger? Also to ask yourself, did it resolve the problem or make it worse? And how did it affect your state of well-being? And finally, a really important question, what could you do differently next time? Now in exercise 3, you're also required to notice the bait and not bite. We've listed all the triggers that could activate our hot buttons in this topic on this specific exercise, so you can work with them, you can identify them, and challenge yourself not to react, but instead to respond. We will be continuing to provide you with some tools that help reduce this amygdala hijack taking place, both in the next topic and later on in the course. But as we finish off now, I leave you with a wonderful quote by Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So I'll see you in the next topic, and until then, take care and stay aware.